Welcome. Today, we're going to cut annoying people out of photos and put them in compromising positions in Photoshop. When people think of Photoshop, they generally think of three things. The ability to modify someone's body to make an average-looking person look like a Kardashian, the ability to make a weird Salvador Dali-esque composite, or the ability to cut someone out of a photograph and then put them in a different photograph. Today, I'm going to be showing you the latter, and I will be showing you with this photograph. Just look at her. You know you shouldn't hate, but you kind of hate her. She doesn't care. Just in her own world. I bet she's on Yelp leaving a bad review out of that restaurant she just left because she asked to speak to the manager. Damn it, Karen! Forgive me, I get a little emotional. So why don't you sit back, relax, watch the rest of the tutorial while we have a lot of fun, have a few laughs, and by the end of it, you'll be able to cut people out of your life too. You'll be able to cut people out of your pictures too. Meant to say pictures. Meant to say pictures. I'm still looking at my phone because my daughter is an artist. That's a badass job. Good job, Stormy. So now I want you to take a look at this image for a second. If you take a look at it, you'll notice that she is really sharp. She's pretty good, and the background is a little blurry. That has to do with the aperture that was used on the camera that was taking the photo. Now this particular image was done with a Nikon D3200 with an aperture of 4. Now if the aperture was lower, like let's say it was a 50mm at a 1.8, that means the whole background would be super blurry, and that would make her pop off the background, which would make it subsequently easier to pop off of the photograph. And let me show you what I would do in this case. Let's go up to here, and you can go up to select for you to make selections, and you go down. You can take things out of color range, you can take things out of focus area. Focus area is kind of tricky to work with. It's not something I would suggest you do right off the bat if you've never done it before. It does take a little playing with to get right. So I would suggest before you ever do that, try doing subject. So below that would be subject, click subject, and once you do that, Photoshop will work as AI magic, and bam! Now we have the marching ants all around Karen, and she is still completely oblivious and on her damn phone. But if you look closely, you'll understand why I'm saying that this is not perfect. This little area right here we have to cut out, not a big deal. This area rounded is a little bit more of the jacket. We can take it or leave it. That is completely up to you. For this example, I'll probably leave it. But all of this hair, we want to keep all this hair. See, right here is good. These flyaways are not something we need to worry about. But this will stick out of here. I'd like to keep that. And if you keep looking down here, you see just little tiny bits. And then we have this little area here that doesn't get selected. And then we go back down to the ground again. So now what I would do in this situation is I would go up, back up to the select, go down to select and mask. Now you'll see she's all black and white, but if you go back up here, you can go down to V for overlay, onion skin, marching ants, you go down to V for overlay, and everything that's not going to be selected is going to be in red, and everything that is going to be selected is going to be in full-on color. So this is where we can start playing around. Now we can move in on her hair here. If you look up here, you'll see these 6 tools, and the one that usually gets default is going to be the Refine Edge Brush tool. Make the brush a little bit bigger, and if you look closely, I'll just put it over here on the green so you can see it better. And it's a plus symbol on it. If you hit the Alt button, it'll turn to a minus symbol. And what that's going to do is it's going to take away things or add things to our eventual selection. So since her hair is here, and we want to add it to this part. We're just going to paint on it. And notice that it always works best with the actual cursor, where the plus and minus for alt, wherever that is actually going over, if it's contiguous to the actual item that you're trying to select and mask, it's always better. Let's go ahead and slide this over here, and then we'll just do this a little bit more. And we get this flyaway and a couple of the other flyaways over here. And now you will see that she is pretty well cut out. I mean, it's not perfect, but we will refine that in a second. What I want you to do first off, before we finalize this, I want you to go to radius, and I want you to change the radius just a little bit, just like 1 pixel. Smooth it out, literally, again, just like 1 or 2 pixels. Feather it maybe half, because usually people don't actually have hard lines. We're not pixels, but Photoshop doesn't know that. So if you feather it by 0.5, it'll make it not such a hard edge. It'll blur that line between the mask and the actual selection. Let's go over here and select, and we will go down to new layer and layer mask. That's important. Now I want you to hit OK. Now if you look over here, we have a new layer. So we can see this area for here, and then we see this other window here. This is your mask. Now you'll notice how we have the transparent checkering all around her, and over here we have her shape in white and this black all around. Okay, now at this point what I'd like to do is I generally like to put something behind it. I don't know if what I'm about to tell you is an industry terminology. I don't know if this is like old school photography. I really don't know where I got this, but I call it a backing plate, which basically is a solid color on a layer behind the layer you just cut out, so you can see any fringing or things you've messed up. So we'll go to that right now. How do we make a layer under the layer that we're doing? Normally we just scroll down here, hit new layer, and then a new layer will pop up there. We just grab it, then drag it in between the two, and that's done. There's a faster way. As with everything in Photoshop, there's usually an easier way, and I'll show you how to do that. So let's go ahead and delete that layer, drag it down here, and I want to make sure that I'm clicked on this layer where the layer mask is activated. This is the layer that I want to check against the backing plate. So I will scroll this all the way down, and I will go to this earmarked create a new layer. Now before I hit it, I will hit control, and if you hold down the control button and click this, instead of the new layer popping up above, it'll pop below the layer you have selected. We have another layer underneath the layer that we have here. Now what we're going to do is make sure our colors are on our default colors by hitting D, and I want to check against black first, so I want to make sure my foreground color is black, so I'm going to hit X. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit Alt Backspace. And now we can see all the problems with Karen. All the problems. So here's where Karen's got some issues. As if we didn't know. This is what we need to do. We'll go to the layer mask, and as I said, we want to get rid of this little ghosty artifact and maybe flatten out some of this, maybe bring back some of this, get rid of this thing. Don't know what the hell ghost this is. We still need to cut that out and cut this out, and we got a little bit of work to do. Karen's a mess. So here's what we do. So we're going to hit B for brush, and I'm going to make it as firm as possible by hitting shift and the right bracket, and then I'm going to tone it back just a little bit by hitting shift left bracket twice. Then I'm going to make it smaller just by hitting the left bracket by itself, and I'm going to just paint away because my foreground is black and I'm on the layer mask, so anything I paint in black here will disappear. Control Z. So let's go ahead and take care of this. So we're going to make our brush a little bit firmer, all the way shift right bracket, all the way, can't do it anymore, then go back left bracket twice, left bracket down. Now we're going to go to white by hitting X, and then we're going to get into the lady's hair and we're going to pull it up like this, keeping a very steady pressure, and now we're good. Now we got this side here that's just ugh. And I don't want to mess with that just yet. I got a surprise for you in that one. So we're going to go down here, and we have this area here that's kind of ghosty. Let's get a little closer in. We can just hit X and just paint that away. Make sure the brush is soft because these are the soft areas, and we will take care of that a little bit more in a second. Let's go over here, and now this is easy enough. I'm going to use the pen tool by hitting P. Pen tool is People find it complicated. A lot of people find it complicated. Some people find it easy. If you don't know how to use it, there's a ton of videos. And if you want me to do a video on the pen tool, just leave a comment below and I'll make sure I'll put that on the list of things to get done. Now let's go over here. And if you want to hit now that you have the pen tool, you can click here and it'll make a dot. And then if you go down here, let's say about halfway, go down here and then click and then drag just a little bit. You'll see those two nodes come out. Just kind of keep those balls lined up. And then you scroll back down here to the point. Then you pull it again, just enough. And now we can go here again. Let's pull. What we were trying to do is roughly encapsulate this shape. And what the pen tool does is it makes specific vectored paths. And it's a mathematical equation. All those little dots have mathematical equations between them that make sure that this is as sharp as it can possibly be. So we want to turn that into another selection. So we're going to go ahead and right in the middle of this circle, we're just going to right click and we're going to go to Make Selection. Click that and then we're going to go to New Selection, hit OK. And now our path that we made with the pen tool is a selection. Now we just simply go over to the layer mask that we're actually still already active on, and we can hit Alt backspace and it will turn black. Now you'll think, did I just fill that in with a color? Yes and no. You filled it in with black, but you filled it in with black on the layer mask, when black conceals and white reveals. So what we wanted to do was get rid of that area, so we painted it in black, but you can't tell because of the black backing plate that I put up, or the black layer I put up behind it. Okay, so now you're gonna hit Control D to deselect, just so I can see everything. Another good trick, if you want to center everything, you go to the top of the page, you'll see the name of the PSD document and the fact this is at 100%. So that is 100% the size. But that's not what we want. We want it to fit onto the screen. So we scroll back down here, and instead of clicking the zoom tool or the eyeglass tool, we go back up here to the hand tool and we double click that. That makes everything fit onto your screen, no matter how big it is. It just makes it fit the screen. But now back to the little bag area we just got rid of. If we just turn the eyeball off on this, we can see right here that it is actually cut out. Turn on, turn off, turn on, turn off, and you see it's still there. Well, let's go ahead and just take care of this side here in the same technique. With the pen tool, we click here, click drag to pull it, click drag. Then while we're inside the selection, right click, new selection will be already set up. If we already had a selection done, we can add to that selection as you see here, or subtract from selection, which is pretty awesome. But I'll just go up to feather radius just to give it a little bit of a softer, a little bit more human look. We'll hit OK. Now we have the selection. Now we just go back up to this layer like we did before, click on the mask, hit Alt backspace, and it will make it black. Once again, double check by turning off that backing plate, and now we're good. We can hit Control D and get rid of that. Now I'm just going to clean up the rest of this, and I'm going to show you what we can do with the hair. Okay, so if you want to know how to get in and out the way I've been doing, zooming in, zooming out, and all that jazz, it's very simple. I like to hit the Alt button and then zoom in, and you'll notice that I have a magnifying glass with the negative sign in it, with the minus sign in it. Is I can scroll the mouse wheel forward and back, and I can move basically where I want it to be, and the focal point will be where the cursor is. If you have a good enough graphics card and you want to go in and out even faster, you hit the Alt key until you get the little zoom tool, and then you can click and scroll to the right, move to the left or move to the right to make it go in and out like that. I prefer that way to bounce around inside Photoshop. It's just easier. Now that we have this little negative chunk of hair that we're gonna get rid of, we gotta figure out what to do with it. What do we do with this area? Do we go select the mask again? Well, we can, but there's another secret that I want to show you. There's another tool called the Refine Mask tool. And inside of that tool is a Refine Radius brush that it used to be in older versions of Photoshop, and now the only way you can get to it is by kind of knowing this little back way. So go up to select once again and go down to select and mask. You hit shift and click, it will open the Refine Mask feature. I'd like to generally keep it on overlay again. And now here's called the refine radius tool. Now before you click that, let's just play with a couple of these settings here. Smooth, again, we want to leave that on 2. Feather, only like 0.7, why not? That's fine, because it's hair. Contrast, I'm just 1%. I don't want to do too much. I just like to keep these off of default, mainly because I noticed that it gives it a little bit softer of an edge when you've just moved it a little bit. It's a nitpicky thing, and God knows I've been called a nitpicker, but it's just the way I prefer to work. So last time we'll go scroll down here, we'll go to layer, and then open it again, open with layer mask. This one, I want you to go from the outside in, and just kind of, and it'll look like it's coming back. Make sure you're on your layer mask. And then, there it goes. Scroll up here, we still have some mess over here, but that brush will get rid of it. Want to run this through real quick, make sure I got everything smooth. And we're going to go down here and click new layer with layer mask. Click OK, and now we have again a new layer, and it shuts off the old layer, and what we have is our backing plate. Now that we see this, it looks pretty good. All of our edges are, you know, they're not perfect, but for this example, it's definitely good. Now we have her out of the background, and we know that it looks good on black. We want to make sure it looks good on other colors too. So we can do this by holding onto our backing plate layer, which is our layer 1, and then we could hit Control I, and what that does is it inverts the colors that are on that layer or in that selection. Remember that. Control I inverts the colors, whether if it's in a layer or a selection. If you want, you can test this out against all the other colors. If you really wanted to, just I'm blue and I think I just matched her jacket. Now we can put her in a background. Let's put her in something fun, something whimsical, something really Karen. I got the perfect picture. Now it's time for the down and dirty way of making her look like she fits into this image. Let me show you what to do. Okay, I cannot stress enough that this technique that I'm about to show you is not something I would do for a client. This is something you should do if your friend says, man, it'd be pretty awesome if like I was in Game of Thrones, and then you just want to quickly be like, oh really? And then you pop him in there. It's like, oh my God, you're like a Photoshop master. And be like, yeah, okay, cool. That's what you want to do. That's what this technique is for. Do not open up a Fiverr after learning this, is what I'm saying. Now we have Karen sticking out like she's trying to find a pumpkin spice latte in the middle of a riot. That is what it looks like. First we take a cursor and we put it up over to the layer mask, and we're going to hit Control and click. That will make the selection around her. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take that, we're going to hit Control, and we're going to go down here to create a new layer, and we're going to click that, and it opens up a layer underneath. This will be between our background and our subject. We're going to look at the image we're working with. Now if you look over here on the left, this is all straight highlights. These are all really bright tones. If we go over here to this gentleman, all of this is all dark. This guy's shirt's dark, everything here. So the darks and the lights jump out pretty quickly. What we want to do is hit I for the eyedropper tool. First, what you want to do is go up here and make sure you're on either 5x5 or 11x11. Do not go point sample. Point sample will literally take the color of the individual pixel you are on. That's not helpful. We want an average of either the 3x3 pixels, 5x5s, or 11x11. Usually when you get higher than that, you get like some weird stuff because you'll get a little highlight, a little shadow, and a little mid, and sometimes more than one or the other, and it's just not always the best. 11x11 is what I use the most. And I actually like this area up here. If you look up here, you'll see this is kind of a good mid-tone between these brights and these darks. So let's just click here. We just hit click. And now, since we're on the empty layer with this selection that we took from the layer mask, all we have to do is hit Alt and Backspace, and that will fill it up with the foreground color that we just picked. Now we can hit Control D, and now we're almost done. One last step. We just go right back up to this layer, the layer with our subject, and then we go up to Fill and Opacity. right over here. They're both at 100%. That's why we can see them completely well. They both look like at first they do the same thing, but they really do not. And I'll get into that in a later video. First, we're going to go to opacity, and we're going to pull that back just about, let's say, 75%. And then we'll go to the fill, and we're just going to pull that back down just down to like 90. Now, if you look at her, she's fitting better, but I think maybe we need to control click either the layer mask or layer 2 again. Okay, so let's just pick a darker color because she's not quite in there. Let's try up here in this like schmutzy area right here. Click on this layer again, hit Alt Backspace. Now we go. Hit Control D, and now at a glance, which is literally all we're trying to do, she fits more or less relatively in there. The colors are kind of matched, the tones are kind of matching. Now if her size is too big, make sure that's lit up, and you hit Shift and you click the other layers so they're both together. You hit Control T, and you now hit Alt, grab one of these corners and pull it in to constrict it, and we will then now bring her back down, and now she's a lot more proportional to the rest of the composition. So that's basically it. All you gotta do is identify the right midtone, and then you'll be able to put that behind the subject on the stone layer, and then you just play with the opacity and the fill of the actual layer. And it's just a down and dirty way to get it in there. Like I said, this is not something that you should charge people for, but it's definitely something you can do in order to see if you can find the right composition before you go through the whole process of making it perfect and then realizing it's the perspective's off or it doesn't quite work. What you want to really do is just kind of slap this together and be like, yeah, I think this is worth working more on. I think I should spend a little bit more time on this because I now know visually that it's not a complete pile of crap. So I'm going to put a link in the description of this video where you can find your own Karen, and what I'd like you to do is go ahead and download her, follow the steps I've showed you, and put her in compromising positions and send it to me at the email I'll leave in my description. But just for fun, here's a few I've done already. Well, that's about it for me. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode with Dodging Karma Design. If you have anything you want me to do in the future, something you want to play around with, or you have a question, I'll leave it in the comments below. I will answer each and every single one of you. I can do that because my channel is really small right now. I want to let you know I appreciate each and every single one of you. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't gotten around to it. Be sure to ring that bell so you will get it rung every time I get a new video up. And most importantly, remember, be good. Or good at it. Tell your friends, be sure to like and share and share and like and share and like and like and blah, 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 blah. Share and like and share and like and share and like and like and like.